there's a huge question of the why. Why am I doing this? Well, I certainly couldn't have expected this kind of attention.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Behavioral Arts. My name is Spidey and I use my degree in sociology and psychology, my certifications in criminal interrogation and body language analysis, and over 10 years experience as an award-winning mentalist to teach people behavioral analysis and practical psychology on stages and television shows all over the world. In the midst of the recent Writers Guild of America strike, Drew Barrymore got into a little bit of trouble when she announced that she wanted to put her show back on the air even if the strike hadn't been settled yet, and this resulted in massive public backlash. As a result, the famous actress turned TV hostess withdrew her decision and issued an apology video explaining why she wanted to go back to work. But this did not help matters at all. In fact, the backlash increased as people felt that the video felt very inauthentic. And as a result, she took the video down. In this video, we're gonna look at the body language, the facial expressions, and the word choice in that video to try to see why the public felt it wasn't very authentic. To be clear, I'm not necessarily saying that none of this is real, she's not feeling these emotions, she's not sorry for what she did. We're just gonna talk about why, in the way that she's communicating, it doesn't necessarily feel that way. Let's dive right in.
I believe there's nothing I can do or say in this moment to make it okay. I wanted to own a decision so that it wasn't a PR protected situation, and I would just take full responsibility for my actions. I know there's just nothing I can do that will make this okay for those it is not okay with. I fully accept that. I fully understand that. There are so many reasons why this is so complex. And I just want everyone to know my intentions have never been in a place to upset or hurt anyone. It's not who I am.
So I thought we would start this week's analysis by playing a little game that all the viewers can participate in. And this is a psychological test called the Stroop test. And it may not be immediately obvious why we're talking about this, but I promise you it relates. So here's what the Stroop test is. It happens in two phases. In a moment, I'm gonna put up some words on the screen, written in different colors. For each of these words, I want you to say the color of the writing. So you're not reading the word that's written down, you're saying the color of that written word. So for example, this would be red, not green. And you're gonna do this out loud. So if you're alone, just say each one from left to right, first row, then the second row, then so on and so on, until you're done. Go as fast as you can. If you're in a room with other people, designate someone who's gonna do this out loud. Okay, get ready because we're gonna start soon. And remember, you're reading these out loud as fast as you can, and you're saying the color of the font. You're not reading the word that's written down. Ready? Here we go. Now that should have been very fast for most of you. You should have been able to do that in just a couple of seconds without too many pauses or hesitation. Now we're gonna do the second phase. So we're doing the same thing again, and once again, remember, very important, you're not reading the word, you're saying the color that it's written in. Ready? Same exact thing, out loud as fast as you can, go. I bet that for most of you that took a little bit longer and that it included some pauses, some hesitation, and some stalling. In fact, the research shows that for most people, there's a 74% increase in the amount of time it takes to get through that list. Now you might be wondering why we're talking about colors and psychology tests, and I promise it's all gonna make sense in just a second. But let's talk about this video. The first thing I want to talk about is decisions. This is one of the things that I always look at first. As someone who professionally entertains audiences and pulls people up on stage and starts telling them things about themselves, I pay a lot of attention to the decisions that we make because it could tell you a lot about a person. So in this video, Drew Barrymore has made a decision that we're getting quite familiar with on the channel. In fact, it seems to be a trend with celebrity apology videos where instead of being in a studio, which we know they have access to, instead of, being dressed up with the makeup, which we know that is usually part of their look, they seem very humble. There's no makeup on, their hair isn't fixed, they're wearing everyday clothes, and they're in a room that seems very accessible, like a room that we might all have a room like that in our house. In fact, this has become such a trend that there are jokes and memes circulating on the internet about how celebrities must have this room in case they need to do an apology video that just looks like a humble room. And it's true, a lot of celebrities choose to go that route. Now, it's not too difficult to figure out why they want to go that route. It's probably because they want to be relatable. They don't want to seem like Mr. or Mrs. Hollywood, all fancy in a studio with expensive clothes and make themselves unrelatable. They just want to feel like they're just like you and me, an everyday person. But here's the thing, we know they're not like you and me. We're aware of the fact that they're not like you and me, and this creates a strong sense of incongruence in our head. And the thing about incongruence is we notice it, we know it's happening, and it makes us feel alert. In fact, that's the whole reason I wanted to start with the Stroop test. The Stroop test is one of the best examples in psychology of how incongruence messes with our head and we absolutely notice it. So when something is incongruent, when something doesn't match with the environment that it's supposed to, or there's something that's inherently different about it, our brain notices that. It slows us down. Noticing things that don't belong in a certain environment or in a certain setting was a big part of the way that we evolved. It helped us assess danger. In fact, there are often times where we intuitively feel like something is wrong just because we sense an incongruence, even if we're not consciously aware of what it is we're registering. So yeah, it's totally normal that most of us instantly notice when celebrities try to make these videos where they're super casual, trying to act like everyday people, when we know that that doesn't necessarily reflect the reality of their lives. Now, on the other hand, I'm not suggesting that they should have this whole production with multiple cameras and like dressed to the nines with some makeup on. I think the most comfortable answer for most audiences would be somewhere in the middle of those two. I think it's okay if they're using their phones or just like a personal camera. I think that's fine. I think it's also okay for them to be in a room in their house where we see a little bit more luxury. That's the lifestyle we expect of them, and I don't think it's a bad thing to be authentic in that sense. I also think that it's not necessary to make extra efforts to seem like they just got back from the grocery store or just rolled out of bed. I think that effort to look like they're super casual is creating an incongruence. I think it's totally fine if they have their hair done, they wear something nice, a little bit of makeup on, because that's what we expect. That's the way we see them on TV, and I don't think most of us would mind if we saw them that way in these videos. Now let's actually look at what she's saying and her nonverbal communication. So she starts by saying, I believe there's nothing I can do or say to make it okay. So put a pin in that. Put a pin in that sentence. We're going to revisit it in a couple of minutes. But she's saying there's nothing I could do or say to make it okay. In terms of body language, the first thing we're going to do when we're watching this video is we're going to baseline her behaviors, because she does have things she does a certain way that are very unique to her. Baselining basically allows us to know how is this person behaving at their base, because always remember, change is more important than stagnant behaviors. So when it comes to Drew Barrymore, a couple of interesting things. One of the things my regular viewers know that I look for a lot is the eyebrow flash. When we're talking and we see someone who doesn't move their eyebrows that much, and all of a sudden with that eyebrow flash, it can give us quite a few indications to what they're thinking. In Drew Barrymore's case, she eyebrow flashes a lot. Now, eyebrow flashing is a very big social tool. Almost anywhere in the world, we see greetings combined with eyebrow flashes. So this could very well be her way of connecting. You know, she's a TV hostess. She has a lot of experience as an actress, connecting with audiences. And this is something she might do to connect with that audience. But it's part of her baseline. It happens a lot. So I'm not really going to be looking for those eyebrow flashes as an indication of anything, because it just happens a lot as she speaks. Another thing that happens quite a bit is tightness with her lips. We see quite a bit of compressions like this. We see some scrunching as she's talking. We see a few lip retractions as well. Another thing is that the right side of her mouth, the right corner of her mouth, seems to be a little bit more active or a little bit more happening there than the left side. We often see that right side a little bit higher than the left side. So this is something that we see with contempt. So with contempt, we see one side of the mouth rise. So it might be like this or like this. And sometimes we have that sideways look. But in her case, as she naturally talks, that's happening with the mouth. The moment she starts talking, she says PR protected situation, and then she says she wants to take full responsibility. And we see literally this corner of the mouth as she's talking like this, and we see that line on one side of the nose. In fact, even when she's at rest or when she's talking normally, the line on the right side of her nose is a little bit more pronounced than on the left side. So could it be that she's contemptuous throughout this entire thing and she's feeling contemptuous towards the whole situation? It's possible, but I think it's more likely that this is just the way she speaks. She's someone who talks a little bit more with one side of the face, and that's causing what looks like the facial expression of contempt, but isn't necessarily. So we have a lot of this stuff with the lips, a lot of eyebrow flashing. We have this kind of talking more with one side of the mouth than the other. And all these things are probably just a side effect, once again, of her being an entertainer, an actress, and an excellent one at that, and being very expressive with her face. We're going to see a lot of things throughout this where she very effectively expresses things with her face. But the downside of that capacity is that inherently, to some people, that feels fake. When someone talks with a lot of expression and really drives their points home, and there's a lot going on in the face, it just tends to seem fake. Now, I'm not saying it is fake. I'm just saying it has a tendency to feel fake because we're not used to having normal conversations on that level of intensity. And it kind of makes us feel like, okay, there's some sort of show being put on. In fact, we've talked about this on the channel before, and I believe this is a big part of the reason Meghan Markle tends to rub a lot of people the wrong way, even if they're not sure why. It's because everything is really expressed with the words and the facial expressions, and everything is like this big thing. And it just feels unnatural to a lot of people. Another thing that's really interesting with her body language is something that's happening that's the opposite of what we're usually used to seeing, and that's her blink rate. So the blink rate is the number of times we blink in a minute. So the average is between 14 to 21 blinks per minute, but that's really a ballpark number. Some people naturally blink a lot more than that, some a lot less. Baseline is very important for blink rate. What's interesting with her is she starts off the video with a high blink rate, very high blink rate. It's like bap, 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 bap. She's blinking a lot. And as she talks in this first clip, the blink rate decreases. It goes down. And that's usually the opposite of what we see. Normally we see someone, they greet with a normal blink rate, and then as they talk about the thing that's making them stressful, they blink more. So that was really interesting for me. But I don't think we're seeing a blink rate decreasing. I think what we're seeing is a high blink rate normalizing, and those are two different things. So if you're talking to someone and you've noted their blink rate, and during normal conversation they have this blink rate, and all of a sudden you notice that they stop blinking while you're talking to them, this typically indicates that something has their focus, something's occupying their thoughts. So it could be that you just completely lost them mid-conversation and they're thinking about something totally different. This often happens, but usually with like this far-off gaze, or something has them on high alert. They're concentrating on something, they're focusing on something. In her case, I don't think that's what it is at all. We're seeing a high blink rate normalize. So I think in the beginning when she started, she had a high blink rate. I think she was stressed about getting this going, getting this video going, having to talk about this. And I think once she settled into the comfort of what she does, which is talk in front of the camera, she has a lifetime of experience with this, I actually think she got a little bit more comfortable. And this is where we saw a lot of this emotional expression coming through as well. Okay, going back to some statement analysis, she says, there's nothing I can do that will make this okay for those it is not okay with. And there are two things about that that are really interesting. First, this is the second time that she says that there's nothing she can do to make this okay. And that subconsciously lets us know what her priorities are. She started the video with this statement, and then she immediately went back to it 30 seconds into the video, and she's letting us know that her intention, what she wants to do, is make things okay. So the priority here is damage control. She did something, it got out of hand, people got upset, and she wants to make that okay. So this isn't necessarily about the original thing that she did and how wrong it was and her walking us through why it was wrong. It's about her making this okay. This is further emphasized the second time she says it because she adds, make this okay for those it is not okay with. That's an exclusion. She's excluding herself from that group. So there's people who think this wasn't okay, but that's those, that's them, that's not me. Notice it's not those of us. She's not speaking about this not being okay as a fact. She's talking about this being subjectively not okay, and she wants to make it okay for those people. So this inherently creates an ambiguity because it kind of makes us wonder, why are you making this video? If there are people out there who think this isn't okay, but you're not one of them, you shouldn't have anything to apologize for. So it's very ambiguous why this video is being made. And ultimately, maybe that's the reason she took it down, because it's not very clear. Then to add to this ambiguity, she goes on to say that there are so many reasons why this is so complex. And this seems to be a theme in celebrity apologies. We've heard Will Smith say this a lot, that there are nuances and complexities to this situation.
That was a horrific night, as you can imagine. You know, there's many nuances and complexities to it, you know. Understanding the nuances and the complexities of what happened in that moment.
And I think this is a way to suggest that, you know, there's so much going on here that we may not understand. And, you know, ultimately, we're sure you have your reasons. But again, the vibe is a little bit different from that. Because if you're making a video where you're taking accountability, where you're apologizing, say why. Give us the complexity. This is what we want. Otherwise, don't make the video. Now, I'm not in any way suggesting that she owes us the details of her private life. If there are complexities, if there are elements to this that are complex, that are private, that she doesn't want to talk about, that's totally fine. But don't make a video where you're trying to explain your decision and then say there are complexities and not say what they are. It kind of seems incomplete. Either say what the complexities are within this apology, or just don't make the video, or don't talk about the complexities. There's a very interesting shrug right towards the end of the clip we just looked at. And shrugging is something that I pay a lot of attention to. There's some great research from Université Paris-Nanterre on shrugging, and what it demonstrates is that there's a lot of reasons why we might shrug. There's a lot of body parts that are involved in a shrug, but a shrug denotes a lack of something, a personal disengagement. I don't something, so I don't care, I don't know, I don't want to do that, I don't have anything to add, I don't have anything to say. It's a shortcoming. And this is something I pay a lot of attention to when I'm doing my readings for entertainment. Because somebody may be talking about something and they might not be aware of it, but they might have this little shrug while they're talking about something, and I instantly know that there's a personal disengagement from that topic. So I'll know that I can take my reading a certain way around that subject. So her shrug came immediately when she said, I just want everyone to know my intentions. And she does this and she's going like this with the head. I just want everyone to know. And this is a really strange place for a shrug. That's why it caught my attention. Usually it happens with, again, a lack of something. So you might ask someone something and they might go, I don't know. Or if they're talking, you're not asking any questions, they're talking about stuff. It might happen where there's a lack of knowledge or lack of connection. But here it says she's saying, I just want everyone to know. And I think this is starting her loss of words. That she's not sure what to say. I don't know how else to put this. I don't know what to say. And I think what's happening is we're getting a clue here that, again, this is about making things okay for everybody. So I think in this case, it falls under the category of shrug called epistemic shrugging, which is a lack of knowledge or a lack of adding knowledge. So often we might see someone agree, like you say something and they might go, like, yeah, there's nothing to add. That's it. That's all I got. I think that's what it might be, or I think it might be a nonverbal way of her saying, there's not much more to this. I just want everyone to know my intentions. They weren't bad. All right, now we're gonna look at the rest of the video and something she's doing with her emotional communication that's very unique to her and what it might suggest. But before we do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on for more behavioral analysis and practical psychology content. And for regular viewers who want to encourage the channel, I will leave a link in the description where you could find out more about the membership program and how you can join.
I've been through so many ups and downs in my life, and this is one of them. I deeply apologize to writers. I deeply apologize to unions. I deeply apologize I don't exactly know what to say, because sometimes when things are so tough, it's hard to make decisions from that place. So all I can say is that I wanted to accept responsibility. And no, I don't have a PR machine behind this. My decision to go back to the show, I didn't want to hide behind people. So I won't. And I won't polish this with bells and whistles and publicists and corporate rhetoric. I'll just stand out there and accept and be responsible.
Okay, so here we're starting with, I've been through a lot of ups and downs with my life, and this is one of them. And again, we're seeing that same shrug. It's a little bit more subtle. We're seeing a little bit more on one side, and the head shake is a little bit more subtle as well. Her voice also softens up significantly in that moment, and we see those eyebrows come up as she goes, and this is just one of them. And this is just giving me more confidence in the previous shrug. I think she uses shrugs to non-verbally say, that's all I have to say about that. This is where we're gonna start to see one of her best strengths for her career play as a weakness in this context. And it's, again, how emotional she is with her face. So you'll notice as she's talking, she has this laughter, this smile. And she does this to accentuate a lot of things that she's saying, even if it's a negative emotion, almost to seem like vulnerable. But the problem is, it appears really fast, it fades really fast, and turns into other things really fast. So emotions are not like light switches. Emotions are like roller coasters. So notice how when you go into a store and the salesperson all of a sudden, ding, flashes a smile, and then that goes away very quickly, it feels inauthentic. Because the way most emotions work, with some exceptions, is the onset happens gradually. It's not necessarily slow, but it's gradual. So like if something makes us happy, it's not just boom, we're just happy. We slowly develop that happiness. There are exceptions, of course. Surprise, for example. Surprise is instant. Anger could sometimes be instant, but we slowly fade into sadness. We slowly go into happiness. Then it lasts a couple of seconds. Remember, emotions don't last that long. It's difficult to stay in an emotional state for very long. Surprise being by far the fastest. Surprise lasts seconds and turns into either fear or happiness. But they don't last that long. And then here's the important thing. It's the way we come down from emotions. We come down gradually from almost all emotions, even surprise. Surprise is really fast, but that surprise fades into a happiness. It's a slow fade. So when we see emotions get turned on and off like light switches, we immediately disconnect. It's not natural. So right in the beginning of this, she's talking about the ups and downs, and this is just one of them. And she has this smile held on her face pretty much that entire time. But notice how at the end of that, boom, it just fades away into this pensive sadness. And then it kind of goes back into a more subtle smile. And she talks about how she deeply wants to apologize to writers, to unions. And that time, the fade is a little bit more gradual. It looks a lot more natural that second time than that first time where it just went boom, boom. So the reason that I said all this is a strength in her career, but isn't really playing in her favor in this scenario, is because as an actress, especially in her roles, this way that she has of speaking is very charming in those roles. So if you think of all the romantic comedies that she's played in, this kind of smile as she talks, and the way she could change her tone, and even when there's sad moments, she talks to them with this smile. It's very Hollywood, it's very romantic comedy, it draws us in. But when you're having a real moment with a real audience, this smiling through with this exaggerated smile as you draw points home, and then that just kind of goes away into something else, and then it comes back, it doesn't feel authentic. It's so funny because in movies, it draws us in, and she's very good at that, but in a real, authentic, human-to-human video, it doesn't play as effectively. Next up, she says, I wanted to accept responsibility. But she doesn't go on to say why or what she's accepting responsibility for. In fact, I think that if you took this apology video, and I'll leave a link in the description to the whole apology video, and you showed it to someone who doesn't know what the situation is, they cannot gather from her video what she's apologizing for. So here she's saying, I want to take responsibility or accept responsibility, but she's never actually taking that accountability and saying, I shouldn't have done this, here's what happened. It's just, I want to take responsibility. For what? And as she says she wants to take responsibility, we're seeing a lip retraction. So in the beginning of the video, we saw a lot of compressions and retractions with the lips, the difference being compression, retraction. So retraction, the lips go inwards. We saw some in the beginning, then they stopped for a while, and now we're seeing it in that moment again. So I really don't like analysts or commenters who say, oh, this happened, therefore it means exactly that. Gestures don't ever mean exactly something. Context is important. So she's saying she wants to accept responsibility and then lip retraction. So could it mean she doesn't want to accept responsibility? Yeah, it can mean that. Notice how sometimes a kid will say something they shouldn't have said or don't mean, and those lips come in. Sometimes the hands go up as well. But that retraction often does mean disagreement or something we're holding back. So could it be that she doesn't really want to accept responsibility and that's why she's not building on it? It's very possible. Ironically, it can, in this context, also be the exact opposite of that. It could very well be that as she's thinking about what she did, because she's saying in this moment, I want to take responsibility for what I did, which is I said the show is going to continue, we're going to go back on the air. That lip retraction could very well be, yeah, I really shouldn't have said that. It is common to see someone think about something they said that's regrettable and say, you know, I shouldn't have said that. And we said retraction, like, yeah, I really, like they're trying to take it back. Finally, I always throw this in as a possibility when it comes to people who are used to being in front of the camera. Actresses, celebrities, people who are in front of the camera a lot tend to moisten the lips by lip retracting. So most people lip lick like this. She's going to lip lick later in this video, but it's not common. It's not baseline for her at all. And a lot of people who are on camera know that it looks bad to do this, so they get used to doing it that way. So it could very well be a moment of just moistening those lips for grooming, which is usually when we're self-aware. And it makes a lot of sense in that moment. She'd be self-aware because she's taking that responsibility. She's going to be self-aware. So it's very possible that that could be a grooming gesture as well. Earlier we talked about contempt and how she talks more with one side of her face, and this is something that's consistent with contempt, so it's part of her baseline. However, when she says, no, I don't have a PR machine behind this, it's really way more exaggerated than any other time in the beginning.
And no, I don't have a PR machine behind this.
We in fact almost even see the mouth of disgust, because we see this scrunching on the mouth that's even causing on the left side that line. So if you look at it, if you pause it or if you just look at it a couple of times in that moment, you really sense this disgust or contempt around the mouth, around the nose, all that tension. I think she has a problem with people saying that this was a PR move. Earlier, we did see that contempt when she talked about this not being a PR thing the first time, but it was very consistent with the way she was talking in that whole beginning. But here we really see that disgust. So yeah, I think there was a lot of rumors, people saying, you know, this is a PR thing, there's a PR machine behind this. I think it's very unpleasant for her, that rumor. She doesn't want that, which is why she mentioned it as many times as she did in this video. I think she really has a problem with that narrative. And she goes on to really drive the point home. Like, there's no PR behind this. This is on me. You know, I didn't have a big meeting. I'm not gonna get my PR team to push this. And then she ends with, I'll just stand out there and accept and be responsible. And again, that's distancing language. Accept what? Be responsible for what? The sentence almost even feels incomplete. It feels like there should be a word after accept. I will stand here and accept the blame, accept my faults. But there's no negative words. It's just, I will accept and be responsible. Again, it's crazy how for anyone who doesn't know what she's talking about, if you just look at her video, she never clarifies. She never says, I did this, that was wrong, here's why it was wrong.
There's a huge question of the why. Why am I doing this? Well, I certainly couldn't have expected this kind of attention. We aren't going to break rules, and we will be in compliance. I wanted to do this because, as I said, this is bigger than me, and there are other people's jobs on the line. And since launching live in a pandemic, I just wanted to make a show that was there for people in sensitive times. And I weighed the scales and I thought, if we could go on during a global pandemic and everything that the world has experienced through 2020, why would this sideline us? So I want to just put one foot in front of the other and make a show that's there for people, regardless of anything else that's happening in the world, because that's when I think we all need something that wants to be there, being very realistic in very realistic times. So that is my why.
Again, we're starting here with a mess of emotions. It's like a light switch. It's going tick, 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 tick. So she goes, there's the question of why. Why am I doing this? And again, she really like accentuates that. And then we have that giggle, which I can't even fake because she's an incredible actress. And she kind of giggles as she's saying that. Then she goes, I certainly couldn't have expected this kind of attention. So again, it's that Drew Barrymore acting that works so well on the screen. But again, in a real video for real people, it just seems over dramatic. It just seems oversold. There's a lot going on. Also notice, once again, we are avoiding negative language at all costs. The same way she said before, I want to accept and be responsible. Here she's saying, I didn't expect this kind of attention. Is this attention? I mean, wouldn't there be a better word for this? This kind of negative reaction, this kind of backlash, this kind of criticism. She's staying away from these negative words and keeping it positive. And that could just be an indication of the type of person she is. She likes to reflect on the positive, but there's just so much missing from this where it almost seems like by distancing, she's mitigating the gravity of the whole thing. And then in a very serious tone, she says, we're not going to break the rules. We will be in compliance. And compliance is a weird choice because it means she's complying to someone else's rules. Like someone else said, this is the way you should do it, and she's complying. So the decision isn't coming from her. Again, it's missing that realization of, here's what I realized, here's all the negative things I did, I shouldn't have done that, as opposed to, I'm just complying to what others think is right, others who thought that this wasn't okay, but I'm not one of those people. And then at the end, after all that, for the first time in a 4.5 minute video, we actually get some thought process. We actually get, so for like 4 minutes, it was very ambiguous. There was a lot of distancing language. It was about saving face. It was over dramatized. Here, we're still getting a little bit of those bursts of emotion, but I mean, the woman's had a career in front of a camera for 40 years. You can't take away the habits she has in front of a camera, but it's not as heavily over dramatized, and she's actually walking us through a process, why she made this decision. There was other people's jobs that she was trying to think about that, you know, during a pandemic they started, so they have experience in working through difficult times. So she figured she could still make content for people. So she's actually walking us through her thought process. I'll be honest, I didn't hate that part. There was a lot of stuff earlier, I think I was quite clear, that was over dramatized. The emotions were a little too light switchy for me. But here at least we're getting some thought process. And it might not be enough for some people. They might go, no, it doesn't matter, you're still wrong. But at least there's an attempt here to say, look, might be wrong, I'm gonna comply, but here's what I was thinking. There are a couple of reasons I believe that she's a little bit more stressed about this topic, this ending where she's actually justifying or explaining her decision and saying how she will now comply and they're not gonna go back on the air. And those reasons are as followed. First, the blink rate is, again, very strange. It's fluctuating. There are bursts where it goes up, where it goes down. But there are moments of reflection in this where she pauses to look for those words and so that blink rate go up. She's also, again, much less animated, which I think is an indication that there's a lot more spinning. She's still animated in that Drew Barrymore way, but not as intense. So I think there's a lot of thought going into this and she's choosing her words carefully. I think she knows that this is the part where, regardless of what she says, people are still going to be like, no, not good enough. The other thing is we see 3 lick lips in this segment, in this last segment. And lip licking is something that's very consistent with stress. because when we're stressed, the mouth dries out, and this corrects that. It can also be an indication of grooming. When we lick the lips, it brings more color to the lips, makes us seem more presentable, but grooming is also a sign of stress. It means the focus has been turned inwards. We're thinking about the way we're coming off. So yeah, I believe overall, she was hiding behind, those displays of emotion, the ambiguity that she was using, but now she's actually come to a segment where she's actually giving some answers, walking us through her thought process, and it's making her stressed. I think she knows that to the critics, which is most people who disagree with her decision, no explanation will be good enough. I think she's aware of that. I think that's why we're getting a lot of ambiguity, a lot of stress when she actually has to explain it. I think she knows that there's really no way to explain that decision. It was the wrong one. Right at the end, again, when she's saying, I want to make a show that's there for people, we see that exact same shrug with the head doing a no gesture like this. And I think we've seen this in enough places to know that this is an epistemic shrug for her that non-verbally communicates. That's it. That's all I have to say about that. And I think that's what it is here. It's as simple as that. I just want to make a show that's there for people. That's it. That's all it ever was. So it's funny because my confidence in this went higher each time I saw it. Like the first time I saw it, I was like, that's a weird place for that. Then it happened again. I was like, oh. And then the third time, I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. It's her going, that's it. That's all I got to say about that. So in conclusion, what do we have? I think my conclusion was sprinkled throughout the analysis. But overall, at the end of the day, listen, it's hard to tell what she's really feeling because we're looking at a woman who for 40 years played in blockbuster movies and has been very effective in drawing us in with her capacity to be in front of a camera. But again, that doesn't translate to a real video. I believe that she believes she chose the less of two evils. I don't think she's an idiot who doesn't understand that by resuming her show, she's kind of not showing her support for the strike, which, she should have been. I think she gets that. I think she made a decision that in the moment felt right to her. And I think at the end of the day, a part of her still does stand by that decision, saying, no, listen, I was just trying to put my show back on the air and trying to put my staff back to work, just wanted to get back into things. And she didn't think about the Writers Guild as much as she should have. I also believe that it's quite unclear what she's trying to accomplish with this video, because if she stands by the decision she made, she shouldn't have to apologize. And if she's apologizing, it should be a lot more clear what she's apologizing for. The wrongs that she did, it should be explained. The accountability should be there. But instead, we're getting this distancing and this ambiguity. And that's probably why she took the video down, because this didn't satisfy the critics. Those people who wanted accountability, who wanted her to realize how wrong it was, it doesn't seem like we're getting that. But let me know in the comments what you thought. Do you agree that this was communicated a little ineffectively? Do you think that there were moments of this that were genuine and communicated effectively? Do you think that she should have even made the video in the first place? Or is it one of those things where it doesn't matter? She could have said anything she wants. It's too late. Those who dislike or disagree with her decision have already made up their minds, and there's nothing she could have said. Let me know in the comments what you think about all that, and I will see you on the next one.